The Michigan Supreme Court is out with a decision that provides critical relief for thousands of people who were badly injured in car wrecks. The court says people getting care for catastrophic crashes before June of 2019 won't lose their lifetime insurance benefits. For decades, people injured in crashes were entitled to lifetime payments related to care and rehabilitation. But a new state law that kicked in 2019 set a fee schedule and a cap on reimbursements. Suddenly, 18,000 people, including former Detroit Red Wings star Vladimir Konstantinov, were at risk. For more on this, we are joined by Michigan auto law attorney Josh Tarabello, who focuses on no-fault insurance lawsuits and helps auto accident victims. Mr. Tarabello, thank you very much for joining us, and good evening.
Good evening, Tony. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, first of all, Mr. Tarabello, can you talk a little bit more about this ruling? Because initially, on its face, it sounds like a win for those who were hurt in crashes and a loss for insurance companies.
So, yeah, I'm happy to. And, before I get into it, I just want to say that it's not going to end here. There's actually going to be another decision that has to be made. But for now, this has presented a very big win. And it's presented a very big win because there's people that were catastrophically hurt. And the changes that occurred in 2019, which they applied for a fee schedule, which you talked about, which we can get into more in a minute, as well as changes with the help that people can receive. All these people needed this unlimited lifetime benefits, and that was what was taken away from them. And there was no language within the law, there was no language within the amendments, and there was no language that allowed any of these insurance companies to retroactively apply the fee schedules to these individuals. And this fight has been going on now for about 2.5 years. And finally, the Supreme Court was able to issue their opinion, and they affirmed that this law cannot be applied retroactively because the law that was in place at the time of their collision is the law that has to control. So the people that were impacted the most by this were quadriplegics or paraplegics or people with traumatic brain injuries or those who've had multiple surgeries that needed help and assistance, and they weren't able to get it after the change in the law. So this is an extremely big deal for the citizens of Michigan and to affirm what was right.
Mr. Tarabello, do you know if people needing around-the-clock care at this point have to pay the top premiums?
They have to pay the premiums that for those that were involved in collisions prior to the amendment in 2019. Their premiums are still their premiums remain the same. Frankly, we could have a whole other segment on the premiums that people had to pay and why there's not really savings since the change in the law. I don't consider it top-of-the-line premiums when you're getting the lifetime care and benefits that you need.
Unless lawmakers act, this is now the law because it's a Michigan Supreme Court ruling. This can't go to the U.S. Supreme Court, correct?
This cannot go to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. This is the law. Now, there is one issue that still remains, and unfortunately, certain citizens are still not protected. So what this law did was that it protected those that are covered via contract. So, if it's your own policy or a family member's policy that you were covered under, this specifically applied to you. But unfortunately, not all people received their benefits via contract. Some of them received it statutorily. So if you didn't have your own automobile insurance or was an uninsured case, or you didn't live with someone that had their own automobile insurance, you would get it through the Michigan Assigned Claims Plan. But the Anderi decision, which came out today, specifically said that it is not deciding those who are protected statutorily. So there is going to be, in my opinion, there's going to be an Anderi 2, which is going to have to be brought forward by someone that got their benefits through the Michigan Assigned Claims Plan.
Because of the ruling today by the Michigan Supreme Court, Mr. Tarabello, do you think lawmakers will want to change the law, or can you see this law completely being tossed out altogether?
What do you mean when you say that the law being tossed out altogether? The
2019
lawmakers,
could it be changed completely?
So the law already was changed completely, unfortunately. And what I mean by that is, Michigan had the most unique no-fault system. And I've actually presented on other states' no-fault systems. We are the only ones that provided lifetime and unlimited care. And what occurred in June of 2019, when they put in place the restrictions in the fee schedule, is that they didn't make it so it was mandatory anymore that people were automatically going to be covered. So anyone who is injured in a crash after the amendment date in June of 2019 is not subject to Anderi. They're subject to the policy that they purchased. And, a lot of times the people aren't truly being explained, the benefits of unlimited or, how it's going to be impacted if you pick a cap or things like that. So the law has already changed for what the lawmakers wanted, and it was done in a fly-by-night manner. And has detrimentally impacted the citizens of Michigan, but the law's already changed. This is protecting those who were injured before.
Okay.
So it's not going to change again, but, the advice that I can give for people who are listening is when you're purchasing your insurance, purchase unlimited. We're not going to be able to do anything about your attendant care, which was reduced for what you had before, but certainly purchase unlimited benefits. That way, you at least will always have the ability to get treatment.
We have been joined on the live line by Michigan auto law attorney Josh Tarabello. And Mr. Tarabello, thank you very much for all of the information. Thank you for taking the time to explain the Michigan Supreme Court's ruling today and its impact on residents here in Michigan.
Of course. Thank you very much for having me.